my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan the Comic Collector Geek, and these are the hottest Golden Age comics for the week. We're going to start it with what I call the Steal of the Week, and it is Blue Beetle number 50. This is from November of 1947. It is just a great femme fatale cover. You got Blue Beetle charging in, you got this woman with a dagger, she's ready to take him out. She's got like a slit under her skirt, just lots of really great elements to it. It's a Jack Kamen cover, and it's just a really cool cover. This was a 7.5 that came up for sale on my comic shop, and somebody picked it up for $1,895. That sounds like a lot, $1,895, but that was a big steal because back in June of 2014, the same book sold for $3,988. This was just, it was like half price from like a sale that happened almost 10 years ago. So that's just crazy. You don't usually see that in the Golden Age, especially for a Jack Kamen cover that's a good girl art cover. It just doesn't happen. This was a major steal. I think personally this was a book that was listed incorrectly because there isn't that much sales history for it. It's a rare book. There's only 23 of these on the census, and 19 of them are Universal Blue labels. So for a 7.5 to sell for this price it is really a big steal. So that was a great book. Number 9 on the list is Lawbreakers Suspense Stories number 11. Now this is a really cool cover. This is from Charlton from 1953. It is a Lou Morales cover, and it features a guy, and in his hand he's holding a whole bunch of severed tongues. And basically he's telling the woman that's there, and she's like freaked out, that he's gonna cut her tongue out, and nobody will hear her scream, or nobody will be able to do anything or say anything because he's cut their tongues out. It's just crazy cover. It's one of those classic pre-code horror covers. This was a 3.5 that sold, and it sold for $2,880. This was, it could be considered a bit of a steal because the previous record for this book was back in October of 2021 for $3,360. But there was a sale in June of this year for $2,272. So it's back up from the previous low sale that it had in June. So, is it a steal or is it a price correction? Is it, who knows? But it was definitely a great sale. There's 75 of these on the census, and 72 of them are Universal Blue labels. Number 8 on the list is Strange Suspense Stories number 19. This is also from Charlton. It's from 1954. It's a Steve Ditko cover, classic electrocution cover. Just probably, in my opinion, it's one of the top 3 electrocution covers. There's is it Web of Evil number 5, and then there's this one. And then maybe like Captain Marvel Jr. would be the other one that's really great electrocution cover. This one is just a book that is really loved for its extreme cover. You got this guy who's like minutes away from being electrocuted, and just you can see every little muscle and fiber of his body is very tense. Just a really great cover. This was a 3.5 that sold, and it sold for $1,530. Now, the prior record for this book was set back in 2022 for $1,500. So you're thinking, oh, well, it's only up $30. However, there's something more to the story. The one that sold last year for $1,500 was a CGC copy. Well, the one that sold this week was a CBCS copy. So the CBCS copy actually set a new record, and sold for more than the CGC copies. So generally, with the difference between price in CGC and CBCS, it's about 20 to 30% sometimes I've seen. So for this to sell for a little bit more than the CGC copy and only from a year ago, is a big sale. So it shows that maybe people are recognizing the CGC and CBCS are pretty much the same, and it's a pretty great one. So this was a 3.5 that sold for $1,530. There are 52 of these on the census, and 50 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Next, number 7 on the list is Pep Comics number 23. This is an MLJ comic from 1942. It is a Irv Novick cover, and this is the second appearance of Archie. It actually appears before Jackpot number 4, which is his third appearance, and it's also a great cover. So the early Pep comics would feature a lot of superhero stuff. And some of them feature some really great Nazi covers. So this is like Nazis, and they've taken over the Statue of Liberty. There's some great swastika stuff going on there, and a lot of collectors will go after these kind of wartime books, especially these more extreme ones. So this is got Archie key factor and those kind of wartime key factors. So there's a double key on this one. Now this is a really low grade that came up. So a lot of these Peps really they're hard to find, and they're usually in really low grade. This was a 0.5 that sold. It sold for $1,560. And the reason it's a 0.5 is I think the centerfold and page 33 have like some missing pieces, and like it's enough to say that it's incomplete. This is the only sale for this book. So this is a record. It's the only sale. That shows you how rare this book is. There's only 24 of these on the census, and 22 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So just a really cool book. A lot of these early Peps are really hard to find. So again, second appearance of Archie. Pretty awesome book. Number 6 on the list is one that we've had on the list before, actually. This is Batman number 4. It's from 1940. It's a Bob Kane and Jerry Robinson cover. And this has so many keys in it. It's just a great book for the number of keys in it. It's the fourth appearance of the Joker. It's the first appearance of the Joker's hideout. And it's the first time that they mention the city that all of this is happening, which is Gotham. So it's the first time that Gotham makes an appearance, I guess, in terms of being named as Gotham. So very interesting book. This was a 4.0 that came up for sale, and it's a restored copy. It's extensively restored. They put it as moderate to extensive restoration, but it's trimmed. It's done. It's not going to be unrestored. It is restored book, and it sold for $2,340. Now, this is a pretty strong sale because the last sale for this book was like in June of 2021 for $2,100. 2018 for $2,115. So this is above the Blue Label that sold in 2018. Now, there was a 2017 sale that was $2,766. So this book actually had dipped between 2017 and 2018. But this is a record because there's also restored copies that you can check the census on, and you can check their records, their history. And there was a restored copy that sold in June of 2021 for $2,280. So this is up like $60 from that previous record for restored grades. But it really shows that the price difference between restored and unrestored books, not much. It's very similar. This is like above the blue labels. So it's really hard to say how much a blue label would sell for in this grade. But for a 4.0, there was just not much difference. Generally, a 4.0 will have about 80% of the value between the restored and the blue label. So this is kind of a strong sale for that reason. There are 89 of these on the census, and 199 of them are blue labels. So there's like almost 100 of these that are restored. So that just gives you a sense of how much restoration plays a role in these early Batman. Okay, number 5 on the list is Tell It to the Marines #2. This one was just, I was not familiar with this title. I thought, wow, this is a kind of a cool book. It's from Toby Publishing from 1952. It's a Jack Startling art. It has his art. It's got snakes. It's got a femme fatale, good girl art cover. It's got Marines on there, and just a cool cover. I just thought it was a really cool looking book. This was a really interesting sale, and I'm actually surprised by this sale because this was a Raw comic that sold. And whenever you buy Raw from anywhere, even if it's Heritage, where they have good graders, you're buying a Raw comic, so you're not 100% sure that it is the grade that it is. So with that in mind, the price, you can't look at it as the grade that they say. Just FYI there. But they said it was a Raw 5.5, and it sold for $840. Now that's huge because the prior record for this was set back in 2019 in a 5.0. There was no 5.5 that sold before, but in a 5.0 it sold for $504. Now there's actually a 5.0 that's on eBay right now, and I was debating about buying it for around $500 or $600. So this is more expensive than a 5.0 that you can buy right now, which is kind of maybe a bit of that Heritage effect where people trust the auction site, so they will buy from it rather than, or maybe there's that competition element that happens where people bid themselves up or ignore the buyer's premium. But this should never sell for more than what's available elsewhere, readily available. To buy it now, it didn't make much sense. But this was a really interesting sale. $840 for a Raw 5.5. Now this book is quite rare. There's only 5 of them on the census, so interesting altogether. Okay, so number 4 on the list is True Crime Comics #3. This is from Magazine Village, and it's from 1948. This is a classic cover. It's actually seen by Overstreet as it's number 9 on the list of top 10 crime covers of all time. So pretty cool distinction there. It's a classic thing where the gun bullets, these guys getting riddled with bullets, and they spell the word rat. He's basically, an informant or something like that, and he's, the mafia is killing him off. It also features a drug story, which is another notorious thing for the Golden Age, and that was not allowed in the Silver Age. So another reason why people would want to get this book. It also features a Jack Cole cover. He's a noted artist from the Golden Age. This was a 4.5 that came up for auction, and it sold for $1,680. The interesting thing about this book was 3 days later, it sold again, so a different copy. So it sold on Heritage for $1,680. And then on November of 2019, and then on 3 days later, it sold for $1,140. So it actually sold like a few days later for $300-400 less than what it had just sold for on Heritage. So just interesting how that was. The prior record before either of these was set back in November of 2019 for $1,126. So just an interesting book altogether, that it's, had all these kind of ups and downs within 1 week. There are 52 of these on the census, and 48 of them are Universal Blue Labels. The next book on this list is Startling Comics number 35. And this is another Raw comic. You'll notice that there was a bunch of Raws that we talked about on this list. And the reason I like to see how Raws perform. So this is another Raw. This is Better Publishing from 1945. It's an Alex Schomburg cover. And it's a really great cover where you get a typical war cover. It's anti-Japanese propaganda. They're burning down, like you get the Imperial Palace being burned down, and the hero is basically blocking all the hoses so that the Japanese can't put out the fire. It also features a really interesting Fighting Yank story where it's a drug story again, where they're trying to attack the Fighting Yank with a hypodermic needle, which is another thing that is kind of a key interesting thing for collectors. So, but this was an interesting one because it was a Raw comic, as I was saying, and it's a 4.5, and it sold for $1,920. That's a pretty big sale because the previous record for a graded copy was set back in August of 2022 for $1,320. So this is up $600 from the prior graded copy sale. So that's always interesting to me, where Raw copies can sell for more than the graded. That just doesn't make much sense, but it happens. And a lot more. That's about 50% above the prior record. Now, there are 30 of these on the census, and 29 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Okay, number 2 on the list is More Fun Comics number 44. This is from June of 1939. It is a Craig Fessel cover, and it features so many cool things. So this book is really interesting because it's just such a cool book for who's inside the book. It's got Bob Kane, Bernard Bailey, their artworks featured inside. And it also has a Jerry Siegel story inside. Now, this is from June of 1939, which is around the same time when Action 1 came out. So, this is like kind of a cool book for the fact that it's got all these major artists that will go on to produce like the Spectre, Batman, and Superman. So it's just really cool that they're all in this one book. Now, this was a 3.5 that came up for auction, and it sold for $2,640. Now, this book doesn't come up very often. It's a rare book. It comes up like barely ever. The last sale for this book was set back in, the last record, I should say, is from 2012. So like 11 years ago. And it was for $691. So just doesn't sell that often. So when it does sell, it, goes up quite a lot. So it went up like 4 times from its prior record. So it sold for $2,640. Now, there's only 9 of these on the census, so that's why it doesn't come up very often. Just a cool sale. More Fun Comics number 44. Okay, so next on the list, number 1 is Famous Funnies number 2. This is from Eastern Color, 1934. It is not a Golden Age book. It is actually a Platinum Age book. And this one's a really interesting one because it features Vic Palizimo cover. And it is the 7th comic ever produced. So that's what's cool about it. It's like the 7th comic ever produced. It's a Gerber 9 as well, which means that it's very rare. Not many comics, not many of these known to exist. And there's actually 2 editions for this one. There was a reprint that happened a few months later. So this was from September of 1934, but there's also a December of 1934 edition. So this was the first printing, if that makes sense, of that book, and that makes it even more scarce. Now, this book was a 4.0 that sold, and it sold for $3,120. So $3,120. Now, to give you a sense of how big of a sale this was, the last sale for this book was back, the last record, I should say, was back in February of, last record, I should say, was set in, no, actually, February of 2023. So this was recent sale for $1,920. So it just sold in February of 2023 as a 4.5. That's the 4.5, sorry. The 4.5 sold in 2023 for $1,920. So this is above what the 4.5 sold. And the last record for a 4.0 was set back in 2012 for $1,374. So this book doesn't come up very often. Like, it was 11 years ago that the last copy of a 4.0 sold. But when it does come up, it gets big sales. So the 4.5 got, whoever got that got a good deal, because for the 4.0 to go for almost double is a pretty strong sale. So I thought this was a really interesting one, just because it's such a strong sale for this book. And it's the 7th comic ever produced. So if you want to get one of those sub 10 comics ever created, well, this would be the book for you. There are 24 of these on the census, and 17 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this 10 hottest comics of the week. If you have any comments, put them in the comments below, and I read all the comments that people put on these videos. I hope you enjoy my hot list, and stay tuned because we got more stuff coming this week that should be really interesting. I got a contest that's coming up, so I gotta be a little bit, zip-lipped on it, but there is a contest coming up, and it's going to be something cool. So stay tuned for that. And thanks again for watching. Bye for now.